20%. To the newbies, welcome. If you're one of the latest additions to the channel, these are the rules. No droids, no bounty hunters, no Raylos, no Ray Nobodies, no Adam Driver fans, no sequel trilogy fans of any kind, no black pills, and that means, sorry, I've got a cold, and the worst kind of summer cold. Black pills are channels that think Star Wars is dead, and there's nothing they can do to fix it because they're selling nihilism. We don't do that here. True Star Wars fan would understand that it's about hope. So here we go. Anyway, let's have a conversation. So yesterday we had the fallout from the Latondra Newton leaving, quote unquote, leaving Disney. She is the person who reimagined Tomorrow, and she's the one that basically bullied Bob Iger or Bob Chapek, and she's gone. Now, I think it's a combination of her basically opening up her fat yap, not having enough security around their stupid video Zoom calls, and the Reimagine Tomorrow morons getting their videos leaked out there. I think it's a combination of that and the fact that she fucked up so bad, she lost Reedy Creek, and they have lost it. That's billions of dollars. I will go to Leslie Headland. So yesterday, Sparrow came out and called Cameron on the bat phone and said, Leslie Headland has been removed from the Acolyte and she's no longer working with Lucasfilm. Why? Well, let's talk about the Acolyte. Very weird story from the get-go. Just a minute. Anyway, I'm back. It's very interesting to me how this happened. Look, it's a very strange story. You know, it was announced, I think, in 2019 at D23, and everybody groaned. Actually, no, I think what happened, now that I remember it, it was announced after, I think, Kennedy found out that Favreau and Filoni were talking to George about the next step for The Mandalorian, and he was looking at the scripts. Okay, fine. You know, she freaked out, reached out to Headland, or Headland reached out to her. There you go. And it was announced as a project in development at D23 in 2020. Okay, we'll say 2020, 2019. And finally, some things were filmed this a year ago. It has been plagued by a lawsuit, a big one. And I'll give you the theory. If you're a brand new person here, I'll give you the theory. Here's the theory. Kennedy told Headland, try to get a well-known person to be the producer on the ground in England. And Headland reached out to Karen McCarthy, who is connected to Tom Hanks and other people, and who is unbeknownst to Headland and Kennedy, a friend of Bob Iger's. And McCarthy was being courted by Apple TV to take Sugar, with the lead was Colin Farrell. And she basically rejected that offer. She took the Acolyte offer and thought everything was hunky-dory. And 2 weeks later, Hedlund calls her and says, we're not using you. You're done. McCarthy decides, hey, I'm going to get paid for this. I mean, and when they finally gave her money, it was $5,000, which is an insult. It's like, now, here's the question that Cameron has. If it's a fully funded $200 million project, let me remind you, Disney doesn't have $200 million right now to spend on anything, that they would have had a couple of million to give her to make her go away. They did not do that. So McCarthy got her lawyers, and now we have this lawsuit. May I also remind you, okay, that Leslie Hedlund has not paid the license fees to Companies House, which is a royal UK government licensing entity in Britain look, when you have a movie, when you have a show, you create a shell company, and there is Blue Stockings USA, and there's Blue Stockings UK. Blue Stockings UK has not kept up its licensing fees, and they were brought what they call a note of I'm going to say this wrong, public gazette, which means that if it's not paid by the 23rd of July, all material, everything filmed, everything reverts to the British government, aka King Charles III, which I'm sure he'll be proud to own that sizzle reel. But anyway, so they're behind the eight ball. And again, like I said, there's a lot of, like, we haven't seen any footage. All we've seen are pictures of Leslie Hedlund looking like, she's directing Lee Jung-jae and Amanda Stenberg at Galaxy's Edge. They're in street clothes. We've seen some really kind of, Target looking Star Wars costumes, okay, in so-called BTS photographs. And we know that she filmed stuff, but we don't know how much she filmed. Okay, she showed, this is a real, Doomcock himself said his connections told him that it was a 3 episode short, like it was all the short films, which is basically what a sizzle reel is. And it's been quietly soft canceled, as in it's just going to disappear down the memory hole and we'll never talk about it again. And if, as you notice, Kamran pointed this out, that it has not been talked about by the rags. Matt Bellany at Puck has not said a word. Okay, so I'm like, yeah, okay, it's over, it's done. This show is never going to see the light of day, and that's good. That means that something that Kennedy really, really wanted is not going to happen. Okay, so let's talk about Kathleen. All right, and Frank Marshall. Almost every video I've made this week is about, hey Cross, how you doing? I'm gonna be on for as long as I can. I've got to go, and I've got not an appointment, but I got stuff to do, errands to run. So they all walk out before Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premieres in LA. James Mangold brings out the cast. Harrison Ford walks out last. And, Steven Spielberg calls him back. So he comes back there. All right. And Spielberg takes the mic. He doesn't hand it to anybody else. Proceeds to give George Lucas kudos. He gives Harrison Ford kudos. And then at the very end, oh yes, it has. It really, really has. And at the end, you're watching, if you watch the up-close reels, and the ones from the different angle, here's where you really see it. Both Marshall and Kennedy thought they were going to be honored by Spielberg. Instead, he says John Williams. Why they think they would be the glue that held Indiana Jones together, I don't know. And the look on their faces, Frank goes like that, and he's very, I mean, you can tell, he's like, Kennedy like looks down, looks at her hands, goes like, well. Frank walks away, turns to walk away, but before he does that, he says, let's go. You can see him say, let's go. Then he turns to walk away. Kennedy doesn't know what to do. He turns back, and from what Sparrow said, the rumor in the office is that he said, this isn't our party to her. And instead of letting George bask in the glow and go to talk to John Williams, Kennedy grabs him and leads him off the stage. Why? All right, I'll admit, George, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's moving a little slow. But that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go into black pill. Well, he had a stroke, blah, 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 and he's dying. You know, that's, you know, black pill blob speculation as if they've got his medical records in front of them. But when Sparrow talked about how Kennedy reacted to it later, now I'm pretty sure that Kennedy used George as a crash helmet. She just grabbed him to hide behind. I'm going to say this. I have never seen anything so blatantly harsh in my life, and I've seen politicians do shitty things to each other. All right, I've seen the knives come out, but this was a in your face, fuck you from Steven Spielberg. Who, let's put it this way: if you can't get his kudos, thumbs up, you know, you piss him off in a way that she did, it's over. Now look, everybody knows how she screwed George over. Everybody knows how, you know, she screwed Harrison over. Hi, Chris. But they don't. Sorry, guys. I mean, you can tell I'm stuffed up. The one thing that was missing was screwing Steven Spielberg over, like it was their right. And what is just absolutely telling is they thought they could get away with it. Okay, now let's go back. All right. The Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny script and idea has been bouncing around since Harrison signed on to do one more Star Wars movie. Hey, Parabellum. It's very interesting to me. I remember it was in 2017 that it was either Esquire or GQ, and I've got both. Maybe it was Esquire. If I can find the article, I'll do a video. He's being interviewed at his house by some reporter, and he received the latest script of The Dial of Destiny, or whatever they were going to call it then. That was in 2017. Okay, so this movie has been in development for a long, long time. Now, come early 2021, Luke Skywalker, on the 28th of December 2020, saved Star Wars. Okay, and everybody's losing their minds. Second thing, after that, Kennedy lost her shit. And she lost Steven Spielberg to direct The Dial of Destiny. He would stay on as an executive producer, but he didn't have anything to do with the creation of this movie. And she hired James Mangold, And then Gina Carano was let go. Okay. Why did Spielberg leave? I speculate. First off, he didn't like the script. He was sick, and he was sick and tired of her meddling creatively on something that she had nothing to say about. And then she went and cast Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, if you notice, people who are cast in TV shows and movies, we find out at a later date. So when it was announced that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was going to be in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we didn't know that she'd been casted. And I have a feeling it was like months before that. Spielberg didn't like it. He liked that idea. He didn't like her casting and walked out. If you're going to make me have to direct her, I'm done. All right. And I think that's what happened. A combination of Kennedy, a stupid script, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Gone. All right. And George didn't want anything to do with it anyway. Fast forward to last week. I think that it was a week ago. The red carpet. Ford is standing there while Spielberg snubs, ghosts, cancels both Kennedy and Marshall. And Spielberg looks at him smiling right in the eye. Harrison looks at him, glances over his shoulder with a big grin on his face to look at both those two clowns, and then turns around to face the crowd with a grin on his face that, so why did this happen? Screwing George Lucas over might get you a pass in Hollywood because the Hollywood social hive doesn't like him. He doesn't do anything they want him to. He's independent. Okay, and he's always been independent. He's made his own movies and is the most successful independent filmmaker in the world that ever. Okay. Hollywood still can't wrap its mind around what even the sequel trilogy or the prequels are. Oh, I agree with that. Oh, I agree with that too, Parabellum. And, for George he called them out. But instead of calling out KK, he called out Disney. And Iger himself in his book, his autobiography, The Ride of a Lifetime, I think it's called, basically writes, George felt betrayed, and I think Iger felt bad. Iger and him were friends, okay? Not one word about Kennedy in that book. Nothing, okay? So, when you get further into this, Kennedy screwed Han Solo over. Yes, he did. And then she turns around and tries to cuck Indiana Jones. Now, I think a lot of people are mistaking what's going on in this movie. I haven't seen it yet. But reading and listening to what Harrison says about Indy and about how he's an old man, and I wanted to present him like that, I think people are misinterpreting what they've been seeing. But again, Phoebe Waller-Bridge in there, her part's too big. I mean, she's basically Kennedy's avatar. I agree with that totally. British, boring, brown-haired, duck face. Okay, so he probably was pissed because look, I'm going to explain this. Harrison not only saw the ruination of Han Solo, and I don't think he wanted it that way. Okay, he also saw the ruination and humiliation of Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. And you got to remember, those three are battle buddies. Okay, that is a family. And, you know perfectly well that both Carrie, before she died, and Mark told him everything. Okay. And he was unhappy because look, Mark is very outspoken about the way he was treated by Ryan Johnson. And Kennedy, of course, hates Mark, so why would she care? Get out of here, old man. Like, and Kennedy's not old. Okay. What other delusions are we going to enable here today? But the thing is, she never fucked over Spielberg until she fucked over Spielberg. Let's talk about these relationships. Kathleen Kennedy ran to Los Angeles from San Diego. She was a producer for talk radio down in San Diego. Jumps in her car and goes to couch surf on her twin sisters at her apartment till she could find a job in film. She met John Milius. John Milius is one of my favorite people. I know Amanda Milius, his daughter, and she's really pretty. She should be in front of a fucking camera. I don't know what she's doing politics. She's a beautiful girl. She should be out there. But Kennedy got a job as Milius's assistant. And my favorite story about her, yes, Kennedy has a twin. My favorite story about Kennedy and Milius had her catalog all of his firearms. I would have loved to have been a bug on the wall for that. I mean, so Kennedy does that. She finally gets to meet Steven Spielberg, who was the reason why she came to Los Angeles. She saw Close Encounters and was like, I have to meet him. Weird. Kind of stalkerish. Anyway. So Spielberg spirits her away, steals her away from Milius, gives her a job as his assistant. And the best thing you could say about her on the Temple of Doom tour is that she makes a really good cup of coffee, but she also talks over people, interrupts. It has wildly spectacular, creative ideas like, well, what if he ends up with a dog? You know, it's like, what the fuck? So she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And then she meets George Lucas because they're going to do Raiders of the Lost Ark. She probably knew George before that because Milius and Lucas and Spielberg are three amigos, and they've been that way since the 60s. Okay. So they go to make Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I wouldn't doubt that she had met Harrison at one point. And I have a theory that she probably tried to put the moves on him, either before Raiders or doing the filming of Raiders. And he had just married in 1980, or had met, can't remember when he got married to Melissa, 81 or 83. He had been dating Melissa Matheson. Okay, so, and Harrison Ford, despite the SJWs and despite the misandrists who've decided they don't like him because of his relationship with Carrie Fisher, is not a womanizer. I mean, you don't see him. You've never heard of him going the Warren Beatty way. Warren Beatty is a pig, okay, and he's always been a pig. But Harrison Ford, he's not that way. He had an affair that happens with Carrie Fisher. We don't know why. We don't know what the context was. Not our business. In fact, if you read Carrie's book, Surrender the Pink, which I highly recommend, when you look at it, like from above looking at it after you read it, you're like, that was about her affair with Harrison Ford. The whole thing. Okay. And that she was in love with him her whole life. And he loved her, but he was not exactly the most stable human being at the time. And she was never stable in her whole life. So there are, I love you, but I can't. And it's sad. It's really sad because, the chemistry between those two is wild. But, you know, I think Kathy saw him and he got back in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, even now, he's just one of the most gorgeous men that I think has ever lived. He really is. He's just handsome and sexy and all that stuff. And I think she wanted him, and he was like, stay away from me. All right. He was like, no, he rejected her. Then we got a hate on. And for Kennedy to hate Mark, probably because Mark isn't a strong man. He doesn't have the cachet of Harrison Ford. Look again. If Harrison had been in TLJ, they would have had to have at least written that script another 5 times before he was happy with it, because he never would have been part of that. What a pile of shit that was. Okay, and look, fucking care if you like that movie. It is garbage. Fucking garbage. The only thing that equals it garbage is Solo, a Star Wars story. Okay, that is garbage in a whole unique area of garbage. All right. But if Harrison had been involved in TLJ, he would have probably called up Bob Iger and said, tell Kathy she can either get rid of Ryan Johnson or I walk, Carrie walks, and Mark walks. Okay, I'm done. The script is shit. What he's doing, what this round-headed clown is doing to the actors is bully. It's immature bullshit. And Ryan Johnson would have been gone because, you know, and because Harrison can go over Kennedy's head. Because look, let's go back to Spielberg. She actually thought she could fuck with Steven Spielberg. Okay, now Harrison Ford had been in TLJ. She learned you can't fuck with him either. If George had held on, we're not discussing that today, Parabellum, so please don't bring that up. I know everybody, all the black pills are happy about it. All the ageist assholes and nihilists like Matt Kadish and WDW Pro, these greedy jerks, and has-beens, never was, you know, fuck them. Okay, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. Whatever. Keep on topic. So if she would have had to have argued with Ford on TLJ, Parabellum, just stop it, because you're making me lose my train of thought. The TLJ would not have been the same movie, because he would have said, Kathy, fix this. If she would have said no, he would have said, great, I'm going to Bob. I'm going to Alan Horn, going to Bob, and it's going to be fixed. I mean, he would have gone over her head, because he can, because he's Harrison Ford. And guess what? He's more powerful in the film industry than she ever could dream of. Now, let's go with this. Spielberg. So she fucks with, she and Frank fuck with him. She fucks with Frank, or she and Frank fucked with Spielberg. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Lucas finally gets karmic justice for Kathy not keeping her promise about defending the franchise, for hiring, you know, pointless assholes like Pablo Hidalgo and Matt Martin, and, you know, his wife, Pablo's wife, Kristen Hidalgo, she's 10 years younger than me, and she looks like she's about 85. It's just, but she fucked with Spielberg, and that was the final straw. Her husband allowed it to happen. Okay. This woman destroyed friendships. She destroyed at least 2 franchises, if not 3. And she's caused upheaval in a studio that should be stable and making money. Okay, why? Because she had to go on a man-hating, harpy, fucking tornado cell thing. Okay. And now she got humiliated by Steven Spielberg. He did not, again, mention her or Frank Marshall at all. Okay. And you can see the before they went out on the stage pictures. You see George talking with Karen Allen, and he's facing Steven. And like behind Steven, but away, kind of away from the group, is Kathy. You can see her, just the back of her head. Steven's talking to James Mangold. Behind Karen Allen and George, there's a picture of Harrison. You can see the back of his head, and George's wife, Melanie. And all the pictures from the red carpet. None of Frank and Kathy arriving. There's only one taken, I think, inside the venue of them together. And then the rest are just snapshots. And there's only one. Mangold, John Williams, and Kathy. One of Frank Marshall and Alan Bergman. And Alan Bergman's like this. And both very tight smiles, fake smiles. And then she photobombs a selfie with George, and another selfie with the Italian Indiana Jones cosplayers. So I think within 2 weeks we're going to see her leave. Okay, and yesterday I might do the video about Latondra Newton, which you guys got to watch. Latondra Newton leaving Disney is bigger than Victoria Alonso getting fired. Okay, way bigger. But Kathy Kennedy being fired by Disney is bigger than both combined, because Kathy Kennedy is supposedly, according to all the black pills, the most powerful woman in Hollywood, who got completely dissed by George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Harrison Ford in front of everybody in Hollywood. Everybody. Kathy Kennedy has not been the most powerful woman in Hollywood for quite some time. And I've told a lot of people that. They don't want to listen. Okay, look. When you are a smaller channel like mine and you have a tendency to go against the narrative, they're going to shit on you. And they've done it to me over and over again. I don't care what they think. Okay, they're not, the big channels are not truthful. They don't see things that they should be seeing. They're subjective in their takes. They usually have the wrong take, and they celebrate negativity. Okay, I celebrate reality. Okay, I celebrate what is seen. Indiana Jones 5 is targeted to get about 60 million in its first weekend. I still say probably the international crowd will like it, so maybe more. LaToya hasn't gone anywhere. She hasn't gone anywhere. I have not heard anything about there. You know, this is, look, when you tell somebody the Empress has no clothes, stop pretending that this is what you want it to be. Stop being delusional here. Look at the reality. They fuck with you. They go, you ain't talk to her. She's mean. I am mean. I am mean. Okay, for the newbies here, I am mean. Why? Because I am sick and tired of seeing people out there. Oh, it's okay, clone or cross. People out there being misled for clickbait. Okay, when you've got Doomcock and his intelligence converging with Cameron's. God, I'm so sorry. I feel like the floor of a taxi cab. I really just, oh God. It's the whole front of my face is like, but when you've got people, again, denying the reality of the situation, Disney stock price, the fact that Elemental is failing, The Little Mermaid failed because no one wants a black mermaid playing black girl playing Ariel, and it's just stupid. When you've got people look taking advantage of everything, like Salty Nerd Podcast, when they go after Harrison Ford for his age and scream, "Oh, he separated his shoulder." No, he didn't. He pulled a muscle up here, and he had to take 6 weeks off because look, pulled muscles suck. Give you an analogy. Give you a historical analogy. In the NFC Championship game, Reggie White pulled his hamstring, and he literally had a hole in his hamstring. And he was desperate to play in the Super Bowl. No, it was, what game was that? Was it the last game of the season? It was one of those games. Maybe it was the last game of the regular season of '96. Reggie was rehabbing it with one of the trainers in Green Bay, and all of a sudden he was like, "It doesn't hurt." It didn't hurt. All right. The problem with it is that the injury was still there. It didn't hurt him anymore, and he could actually move around on it. So he goes and tells Mike Holmgren, and he comes bounding up to him while Mike Holmgren's outside turning off his Christmas. Oh, thank you, Polly. His Christmas lights. And Mike Holmgren, the coach, is like, "What's going on?" And that's how Reggie White played in every game from against the Minnesota Vikings, against the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional playoffs, and then against Carolina Panthers, and then off to the Super Bowl in New Orleans to slaughter the New England Patriots. Reggie White, 3 sacks, set the NFL record in the Super Bowl. Pulled muscles suck. All right, I pulled hamstrings, I pulled calf muscles, and it's not the same as a separated shoulder. Okay, it's not. That would involve probably a torn rotator cuff, if anything else, and that ends up having later in life getting your whole shoulder replaced. It's really interesting to me how I don't think any of these channels have actually addressed the fact that they got the story wrong. Okay, now how did Harrison Ford do it? You actually saw the footage when Andy on the train in the flashback takes his hat off and puts it in Voller's face and punches him. That's how Harrison Ford did that. He actually was in that scene. Okay, that's actually really him hitting Mads Mikkelsen, and that's how it happened. And when you get older, you've got to take into account your muscles are not going to repair themselves or do what you want them to, because you can eat the healthiest in the world. You can do what he does. Harrison Ford does every day: rides his bicycle 30 miles, rides his horse Cooper all the time. Eats right and everything, but your muscles and your bones are not going to be loyal at times, and that's what happened, and it's fine. I mean, that's, that's what happens when you get older. I mean, trust me, in your 40s, uh, is your metabolism the same? It's not. And you have to completely redo your whole life to stay not heavy, okay, which is what I do. Um, it actually, Mike, it actually fell, the landing ramp fell on his foot and it broke. Okay. And then Callista, I don't get that marriage. I don't understand. I just, tells, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, that she didn't know what the Millennium Falcon was and she thought it was an airline. Now you know why I don't get it, okay? I've never been impressed with that woman. It's like, what the hell? But, I mean, maybe that acting stupid is one of her shticks, okay? And people expect her to be, you know, less sharp than Marilyn Monroe. But, whatever. I mean, it's none of my business, but still, it's one of those things where you just kind of sit back and go, look, you can't explain who you're going to fall in love with. You just can't. And it's, God sets people together that he feels should be together. And, okay, so there you go. And maybe she's been good for him. I don't know. Anyway, but the ageist crap, I think, is one of the reasons why people are upset with this movie. BBC reviewer, we don't want to see Indiana Jones as an old man. Really? Bet you the reviewer's in his 50s. Really? All right? The youth cult of the fandom and the world today is repulsive to me. Okay. Instead of having senior citizens read stories or tell stories to kids at libraries, we have fucking drag queens. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, keep those weirdos away from the children, please. I mean, and the fact that this story is not being valued because Harrison Ford can still do it, or could still do it. He's not going to do it anymore. I mean, he said, I'm not falling down for you again. And there you go. It's one of those things that mystifies me. I mean, we get a chance to see him play Indiana Jones again. All right. And that's a great thing. Now, maybe he's not, the 45-year-old guy, or 40-year-old guy swinging around on a rope. But watch this one blue wrenches, and not Andrew. Hey, Andrew. But he still has a lot to offer. This is going to be kind of a fish out of pond movie. I can tell, out of its element movie. Oh, I think she knows it now. I'll get to that in a minute. But I fully intend to go to this movie hating Phoebe Waller-Bridge with all my heart and all my soul, because I fucking hate her. I hate the arrogant look on her face. I hate the fact that these fucking men kiss her ass. I mean, it's like, why? Yes, she looks just like Christy Brinkley, and she has all the intellectual ability and talent of Helen Mirren. Said no one ever. But Mangold saying the intelligent and beautiful She's neither intelligent nor is she beautiful. She looks like a fucking duck. Duck face. In fact, there's a line that Fiona in Four Weddings and a Funeral says to Hugh Grant when he's talking about his ex fiance Henrietta, and she goes, "Oh, Henrietta," and she says, "Duck face." I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna use it somewhere. I'm gonna have Baz Taylor get that part to use because she's duck face. Now about what is going on here. I think the message KK got that her time is up was at the red carpet in that introduction by Spielberg. And he's had enough of her shit. She's fucked with George. I'm not going to speculate on George's health. I think it's disgusting that people do that. I think they're disgusting anyway, looking for something to talk about. And they should be ashamed of themselves, but they won't be because, look, in this day and age, you can sit there and say you're a devout Catholic, but the idea of being ashamed of things that you've done. Gossip is a sin, by the way. Is unheard of, especially if you're trying to make money on YouTube. Okay, and it's going to be very interesting how this goes in the next 2 weeks because I after the Acolyte soft canceling and the fact that we know, and I'm not going to say how we know for sure, Headland's out. She's out. That was the one thing that Kennedy. Oh God, old. All right, guys, Polly and everybody. Jay Cotto, the Jedi, and Mazuris are friends from way back. We've been like this trio of outliers wandering around the fandom, and this friendship formed at Reviews for You when Craig Johnson was still on YouTube. And if he was around, we'd probably have a third person saying, yeah, this is happening. Oh yeah, I miss that whole thing. I mean, the fun we used to have, holy shit, we'd be up all night. I'd be drunk off my ass. You know, it was hilarious. I think there was one night where Craig actually fell asleep. Anyway, but we used to have a blast. Anyway, but I do think that within the next few weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, it's going to be a really BFD, a big BFD for Kennedy, and I think we're going to hear some news. There's a lot of stuff being held back, by the way, that I don't even know, but I know that there is. The fact of the matter is, when Doomcock announced that he had been told that there were 3 short films made, that was it. It was, you know, it's a sizzle reel. That's it. And it's being memory hold, never to be seen again. So, you know, we're at the tail end of this, guys. Okay. Yeah, the big guns. And with Iger and Bergman in the audience or in the back watching, every one of those guys knew what was going to happen. And it just didn't happen to Kathy. It happened to Frank Marshall. Okay. Look, I like Frank Marshall as a person, but as far as what they were trying to do with Indiana Jones, I just look at him and go, what the fuck were you thinking? Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta go and do some errands. So you guys have a good afternoon, and hopefully I'll feel fine later today so I can do Drinks with Dee Dee. The podcast will come out tomorrow, but we're taping it today. I don't know about that. I think, look, my idea that he was never brought into the circle of trust, look, he didn't grow up with John Milius following around Coppola, okay? And I don't think, let's see. I don't think he felt like they trusted him enough. I think Frank Marshall in this instance has been very resentful, because if he'd have seen what Kathy wanted to do to Indiana Jones, he just said, wait, we're not doing that. We're not doing that because this is a shitty thing to do. Okay, and yet, okay. And I think he let it happen. And I think it was his resentment. And there you go. Anyway, I gotta go. Well, I'll tell you something about Craig. Craig still has a channel. They've locked him out because he won't delete 2 videos that they told him he had to. And that's all it is. All right, that's it. Anyway, he could be watching right now. So Craig, if you're watching, stop being so stubborn. I get it. But stop being so stubborn. Okay. Anyway, this is Steph setting out. See you.